Speaker recognizes Representative Oakes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise this evening to oppose these bills. I rise this evening as a proud product of public education. I rise as a testament to the fact that one can receive a good education and it can become indeed the great equalizer. This legislation is unilaterally removes local control and input from the decision-making process. This is the same tactic that this administration has taken throughout the first term. Rather than reaching a public consensus on local issues, you prefer to circumvent our democratic system to accomplish your desires. These bills fail to provide objective criteria for determining whether a district should be consolidated. That subjective authority is simply left to the discretion of the state superintendent and the treasurer. This legislation also fails to address the underlying social issues these schools and communities are facing. These are profoundly complex issues and can't be addressed without extensive public dialogue and input. If we force this action upon communities, we will not see positive outcomes. Positive outcomes are fostered through open dialogue and compromise, not a forceful hand. In the case of Buena Vista, this legislation may very well be in violation of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which serves to preserve and protect the democratic rights of the disenfranchised communities, which we know Buena Vista is. Most troubling, though, are the unknowns. How will ISDs, the state superintendent, and state treasurer manage their newly designated authority? How will school districts accommodate the needs of these new students and put the proper systems in place on such short notice? As a former educator and a lifelong learner, I can tell you this isn't something that can be done overnight. Most importantly, we need to have a sincere and open conversation about how we've arrived at this point. 55 of Michigan's 549 public school districts are currently operating with annual deficits, and these bills do nothing about those 55 other school districts. Another 50 school districts will soon be operating in the red, and these bills do nothing to address those other 50 school districts. But this accounts for about 20% of our public schools. We're no longer talking about an outlying 1% or urban centers that have been plagued by rapid declining enrollment. We're talking about districts all across Michigan, urban, suburban, and rural schools that are experiencing financial distress despite the past 2.5 years of relentless positive action and fiscal accountability. In reality, we've experienced 2.5 years of austerity measures in the interest of corporate tax breaks. We need to start by answering a very simple question. How did we get in this position? The people arguing for consolidation and dissolution are the same individuals who advocated for the creation of 278 charter schools and prematurely removed the cap on charters, which now account for more than 1/3 of all school districts in Michigan. How does this represent consolidation, dissolution, and good government? We're at a tipping point. If this legislation passes, it will have a profound impact on communities all across Michigan and further threaten our public education system, which serves to ensure every child in the country has the opportunity to realize his or her dreams. We need to be having an honest conversation about the fact that real per pupil foundation allowance have declined 25% since 2002. We need to have the courage to acknowledge the negative impact that competition and for-profit interest is having on our public education system. So long as we have competition in our public education system, we will have winners and losers. I don't believe any child should lose when it comes to their education. Again, we need to ask ourselves, what would we do if these were our children? I respectfully ask that my colleagues take a moment to consider the profound consequences of this legislation. Over the past 2 days, this legislation has been rammed through the committee process. Each and every party that addressed the committee has expressed honest and sincere concerns about the viability and the consequences of this legislation. Similar reforms have taken 2 years to complete. You all have the opportunity to press pause today so we can bring these communities to the table to discuss this legislation. Let's do the responsible thing and table this legislation until we have the opportunity to thoroughly and responsibly assess the situation and evaluate the best path forward. To not do that is to show that disillusion, that we are in part disillusioned. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative.